guys, we have got to talk about the 16% Rotten Tomato score for Iron Fist. Let's just talk about Iron Fist, the series, a little bit. Having honest discussion. I normally have like a script or something that I've written down, but I'm going right off the cuff here. Do I think the 16% rating is deserved? No, I don't. I walked in, just seeing Daredevil 1, Daredevil Season 1, Daredevil Season 2, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, all those series are fantastic. All those seasons are fantastic and series. So this one had a lot to kind of live up to. So in that aspect, the pressure is on. The pressure is up here to deliver. And I often think, like, if we didn't have a Luke Cage or a Jessica Jones or a Daredevil Season 2, would it had the same kind of low rating, or you know what I mean? Like, would it have fared better if it came out before Jessica Jones and Luke Cage? And I think the answer is no. But let's just get into it. Let's just talk about just the characters in general here, okay? I don't know too much about Iron Fist. I'm going to just say that straight out. So everything that I know is going to be based on what I just saw with the Netflix series and maybe a comic book here or two, okay? I personally just enjoyed the series. Going in, I'm watching the first episode, I'm like, okay, that's an okay episode. It's not the greatest, but it's still good. I started asking myself, why is it rated so low? And I just thought, okay, well, maybe the next episode is just going to plummet downhill. The more I go in, maybe it's just going to plummet more and more and more. But the more I kept watching it, I genuinely enjoyed it. The characters were not as memorable as like some of the characters in like Luke Cage or Jessica Jones, but they were still good nonetheless, right? We have Danny Rand, who's Iron Fist, the main character. He is coincidentally the lowest as far as the actors that were playing in the series. And what I mean by lowest, like the least impressive to me that was in the series, but he was still good. My favorite character going in is, it has to be Ward Mitchum, the character Ward Mitchum. I think the actor did a fantastic job. In the first couple of episodes, you have a feeling that he is going to be the main bad guy, the main adversary of Iron Fist, Danny Rand. And that ends up not being the case. This series, if I had to pick something that this series did well with, right? If I took away anything at all from this series, it would be that this series did such a good job of making you feel like someone is good, but in reality they're not so good. All the characters that I could think of in this series had those type of characteristics, which was kind of bizarre because normally with, like Luke Cage, Cottonmouth, who the bad guys are. There isn't like a switch in personalities or a switch in roles. Jessica Jones is the same way. Daredevil's the same way. You kind of have a niche of who you think is going to be the bad guy here. And Iron Fist kept me guessing. There was a lot of nice surprises, I'll say, that that caught me off guard. Harold Mitchum, I'm just going to say he did a fantastic job. His character, I feel, had the most change over time in this series. And you want to say hi? This is my cat Batman, by the way. Whoop. That character does have a secret that he's holding on to for the longest time in this series, and I feel like that secret is kind of big. Joy Mitchum the sister. By the way, Danny Rand, Iron Fist, Joy Mitchum, and Ward Mitchum, they were all childhood friends, okay? I guess I should get into somewhat of the plot if you're not familiar with Iron Fist, okay? Iron Fist as a young boy, Danny Rand as a young boy, he was on a plane with his parents, and the plane crashes, losing both of his parents, and both of the Mitchums and the Rands are kind of like co-founders of Rand Industries, or the Rand Company, a multi-billion-dollar company. So there's a lot of money at stake here. So that's what happens to them, and essentially they haven't seen each other in 15 years, right? So that's the kind of the baseline plot of this whole thing. So Joy's character, Joy Mitchum, is a very interesting character because as kids with Danny Rand, Joy with Danny, when they were kids, they had a very good friendship. They cared about each other a lot, and they were really, really good friends. More friends than Ward and Danny, for that matter. But this is what I'm talking about when it comes to this series doing things with characters that they kind of throw you in for a roller coaster a little bit, because going in, no one believes that Danny Rand is Danny Rand, the young, kid from the Rand family. No one believes him. That includes Joy and Ward Mitchum. And Joy, throughout this series, is the only one that is giving Danny the benefit of the doubt. And she wants to believe this is Danny because, she misses her friend and, she really likes Danny and whatnot. But halfway through, a few episodes through, you realize that, Joy isn't as nice or as joyful as she seems. Like, there's this one scene where she pretty much tells, they're all at a restaurant. Danny kind of sideswipes them at a restaurant, Ward and Joy. And, when push comes to shove, she is going to pick family first over Danny's her friendship with Danny. No doubt about it. And so she's very cold and ruthless that way, if she has to be. She'll always choose family and business first over friendship. You don't get that feeling to begin with, but that is her character moving forward. So I just think it added a lot of depth to that character. And I apologize ahead of time, guys, that this is going to be kind of like a long conversation with not a lot of fancy, B-roll clips, of action, overlaying over me talking. Overlaid over me talking, but it is what it is. I just wanted to have this honest discussion without a script and without too much editing involved, because 16%. That's a big fucking deal. I don't think any Marvel property has had 16%. Maybe Elektra. I have to look it up, but the movie Elektra. But yeah, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around what the critics saw that made this series so not likable to them. Let me talk about this character, Colleen Wing. She is, I would consider her the co-star. She becomes an intricate part of Danny Rand's relationship or connection in the series. And I just think Colleen Wing, the character, I think she added some major brownie points to this series, to be honest with you. I think she was incredible, believable. She had a lot of on-screen presence. Her martial arts choreography was dead on for the most part. And I feel like she added more intrigue, she added more worth to the Danny Rand character in the series, hands down, no doubt about it. she's very, very attractive. I find her very attractive. She looks of Asian descent. But, this goes back to what I was saying about Joy Mitchum and Ward Mitchum. Colleen Wing, you think she is a certain type of individual here, and I'm trying to be very vague throughout this entire discussion because I don't want to give anything away, and I do realize that most people haven't seen the entire series, 13 episodes. I watched it in the first day, really, but it took me a little while to kind of gather my thoughts as to what I was going to say in this video. But Colleen Wing, the character, did a really, really good job, and she also is one of those characters that has like multiple layers to that character. She would go from, you feel like she's a struggling sensei, martial arts instructor, to Danny Rand's intimate partner, like a girlfriend, or kind of a relationship, a weird relationship, but a relationship nonetheless, to her having a major, major secret that affects Danny and Iron Fist that I, quite frankly, didn't see coming, okay? So it adds this twist, this secret does kind of make the story a little more interesting for me, because it definitely affects their relationship with, her relationship with Danny and vice versa. And I just thought that was amazing. By the way, guys, after I'm speaking all these good things, I'm going to tell you why I really feel like this series was rated very low and my issues with this series, okay? But that's Colleen Wing's character in a nutshell. Very awesome character. And if I may add a little side note to this character, I feel like a lot of female badass kind of characters, they kind of follow this this trap of the way you make a female, like this is them thinking, the way you make a female strong is by putting men down and thus elevating themselves to like a higher stature. Personally, I think it's that kind of formula is utter horseshit, and I don't buy it for a fucking second, and I think it's disgusting. And vice versa, too, by the way. But Colleen character, she was a strong character. She was a kick-ass character. She saves Danny in multiple times, okay? So, and Danny saves her a couple times. So they have an equal standing in my mind as far as both being badass. If they did make an Iron Fist 2, season 2, or the Defenders, it'd be a shame if you don't have Colleen Wing, the character, in at least for one episode or two. I mean, she's really well worth the price of admission, for lack of a better term. So here's where I feel. By the way, one thing I really love, before I get into the possible negatives here, one thing I really feel like this series did very well is, we're getting really, really close to the Defenders. And if for people that don't know who the Defenders are, think of them as a Netflix version of the Avengers, okay? They're like a mini Avengers, okay? And they consist of Daredevil, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, possibly the Punisher, maybe. Don't quote me on that. I don't think he's going to be included, but it'll be a pretty cool surprise if he is. But that's who the Defenders are. Now, Claire, Rosario Dawson's character, she's been in Luke Cage, she's been in Jessica Jones, she's been in Daredevil, clearly. Claire, the character, I gotta say, every single time she comes on, it puts a smile on my face because, I've seen her since all the way from Daredevil, and she's always in this series, in every series that Marvel Netflix comes out with. And I feel like every single time she comes in, I feel like almost like the first time you see a Stan Lee cameo, it's like, oh, it's Stan Lee, it's Claire, I have that kind of feeling every single time I see her. Of course, she has more to offer than Stan Lee as far as the character is concerned, but there's a lot of, if you haven't seen all the other Netflix series, this series, Iron Fist, does a very good job of mentioning little tidbits of information and closing the world as far as people knowing each other. This person who knows this person who knows that person. There's one point where Claire says "Sweet Christmas." She keeps saying "Sweet Christmas," and of course where that's from. That's from Luke Cage. Okay. You also have at one point, Danny Rand, Iron Fist, gets injured and is being helped by Claire, stitching him up and all that good stuff. And he hands Danny Rand, or Iron Fist, a shirt with a bullet hole on it. And clearly that's Luke Cage's shirt. So, the world is closing in. And it's coming together very, very nicely. At one point, and here's another thing that I caught. There's several others that I've caught, but I'm not going to go through all of this today, clearly in this video, because there's just a fuck ton to go over. But another little tidbit of like, oh, you may know this character. She's gonna play a part in the next, the next season or series coming up. Is during the season or the series, Joy Mitchum and Ward Mitchum get kind of booted out of the company, like voted out, right? Of the company. And as leverage, Joy has dirt on all the board members, like whether they're cheating on their spouses, getting arrested. She has all the dirt on them. How does she have all that dirt on them? She hired a private investigator, like a PI. Who do you think that is? You give up? It's fucking Jessica Jones. Clearly it's Jessica Jones, okay? So Claire knows, both of them. Joy Mitchum's character knows Jessica Jones. Danny Rand doesn't know anyone. You also have Carrie Ann Moss's character, the lawyer, and you clearly see her in Jessica Jones, but the way they're connected, Carrie Ann Moss's character is connected to Danny Rand, is Danny Rand's father is the one that gave her very first job. So, all this taken into consideration, right? All the little hints and tidbits here and there of all the other Defender members. It does such a good job. If you've seen the other series, you'll catch it right away. Like, oh, they're talking about so and so, and I really appreciated those kind of Easter egg drops. I really, really like that. By the way, on the 13th episode, you'll see like a Stan Lee kind of cameo. Sorry, in the 13 episodes, you'll see like a Stan Lee cameo. Look out for that. See if you can spot it, and if you do spot it, tell me where you think you saw it on the comments down below. I want to test you guys. Now, here's where I think Iron Fist itself lacks, okay? Let's just talk Iron Fist just in general. He did an okay job. He was the least kind of best performer in this series, but even that wasn't bad. It just was passable, is what I'm saying. He didn't stand out. He's not my, when it comes to the Defenders crew, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Daredevil, those are all badass characters, and you care about those characters. I didn't have the connection with Danny Rand, the character, as much as I did with all the others, which is weird because I still can't put my finger on why that is. It's not like I didn't like him. It's just that he wasn't memorable. He wasn't very likable. You didn't feel sorry for him. Is what I think it boils down to is I didn't feel bad for him, and I wanted to feel bad for him for all the stuff that he had to go through and blah blah blah. But you just don't. I don't know why, but you just don't. The action. Let's talk the action here. It is the least amount of action, I think, in all the other series. Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Daredevil, the whole nine. I mean, they don't have a lot of memorable action scenes. I can't think of one action scene that just sticks out in my mind as like, wow, that was great. I can't wait to see that again. There aren't any like that. As a matter of fact, the one that came close to being that was later in the episodes. Danny Rand does the Iron Fist. He focuses his key. He's inside a building, top level floor of this building, and he jumps up and hits the floor with his building, and everything in the building just goes, like out the windows. And I just thought, okay, that was like pretty close to being like super memorable. Other than that, I couldn't give you a memorable fight scene in this movie. I mean, in this series. You think of Daredevil, you think of the stairway case. You think of Jessica Jones, you think of memorable scenes where, like, the Purple Man went into the police station and froze everyone. You think of Luke Cage. I mean, there's a lot of memorable scenes in those series, clearly. I can talk for hours on those series. But, okay, the character Iron Fist wasn't great. Still good, wasn't great. The action wasn't great at all. I mean, it was good, but it wasn't memorable, is what I'm trying to say. You have things that were happening in this series that you kind of wonder, why even have that in there if you're not even going to explore it? Case in point, there's maybe one episode out of the 13, okay? Maybe 2 episodes at best, where Danny Rand, Iron Fist, goes into his company and actually has an active role with his company. The rest of the series, he's not in his company. He's off doing his own thing. And then I just thought, well, if you're just going to have him be inside the board and talk business for one episode, why even have them in there anyway? I mean, it was just a waste of time in my mind. It just didn't make sense. But I guess it was one of those things where they had a lot of cool ideas, possible interesting ideas that weren't really flushed out very well. And that was kind of sad. I mean, not sad, but it was disappointing. The one good positive, going back to a little bit of the positive, is when I think the most memorable part in this series is when at one point Danny Rand is in a psychiatric hospital. He's being treated for. They think he's fucking crazy because he's the Iron Fist and he's from Kung Lung and blah 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 from another dimension. And I'm just like, Danny, shut the fuck up. I'm just like, who the fuck says that, right? I mean, you must know that they're gonna think you're fucking crazy. You want to get the fuck out, but you're saying you can't get to this location because it's in another dimension, and I was trained by so and so, and in a location that's not on the map, and I'm the Iron Fist superhero. I'm just like, I mean, it's ridiculous, but still, it's kind of like, oh god, shut up. Yeah, I mean, overall, do I think it's a 16% Rotten Tomatoes? No. I think the critics are fucking crazy. Honestly. I mean, the audience scoring rating for this is in the high 80s, okay? High 80s. Critics, 16%? Like, what the fuck were they smoking when they saw this? I don't see... I mean, I see what they saw, but I'm not so harsh on it. What do I rate this fucking thing? In my typical A, B, C, D scale? It's a tough one because, Daredevil and season 1 and 2, they're both A's for me. In my mind, they're both A's. Luke Cage is an A. Jessica Jones is an A-, but it's still an A. Iron Fist, I'm going to have to give, like, a B-. It's still good. It's still watchable. You're going to enjoy it, especially if you've seen all the other series. You're going to enjoy it. And you're going to go into it thinking, I don't know what the fuck these critics saw, because it was not that bad. So, I mean, all in all, guys, watch it. It's very good, very entertaining at times. What did you honestly think of this series? Did you like it? Were there things that you just didn't like, that just bugged you? That I want to know all that, because I'm kind of contemplating whether I should do a spoiler version of this series with, you know, kind of fancy schmancy B-roll on top of what I'm saying and examples and all that stuff. Anyways, if you like this content, please like, share, and subscribe. Please stay tuned, and we will be back this week for the Chips movie release. I was a big Chips fan in the 90s growing up, and the Power Rangers. I mean, jeez, I hope that doesn't blow. Anyways, guys, I'll see you next time. Later.